United family. Super glad to have you joined in with us on what I would have thought would have been the last match of the season so far, but apparently they just duped me. I'm sitting here doing research for the show today because I've been swamped at work, and they just released another 3-match schedule right in front of me. But whatever, it's fine. So it is what it is. But I'm glad we've got Happiest of Joes here on the chat saying we're on the big TV tonight.
Oh, we're moving up in the world.
Obviously, as you can tell, I don't have John Nelson with me. He's actually off doing high school football because that is back. It's back. But you know what? We've got Jason Longshore, as we all say, the godfather of soccer. He's got a whiteboard behind him. I don't know. I might have to have him tactically break into that. Who knows?
It happens occasionally.
But we're just going to tonight's going to be loosey-goosey. I don't know anybody that's ever heard that in a while, but we've got a little bit of things we want to run through, obviously, and then we're going to really leave it open to questions and answers from you guys because, in the end, it's about what you guys want to hear. It's about the questions that you guys have, so we're here for you to just give us questions, and we'll provide as much feedback as we can.
Do it live! I'll write it, and we'll do it live!
Do it live!
Pretty much.
So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Recapping the game against Miami. Obviously, as most people that's probably watched the show know exactly your thoughts on the match. Let me just quickly get through mine.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm done.
Okay.
But for me, it was a lack of defense. It was a lack of urgency on defense. It felt, for the most part, a majority of the players, and there's one particular player in mind, that would cause a turnover and then not try to fix the problem on the back end. This is something that we saw a little bit out of other players prior to the beginning of the season, but for one instance, Hyndman loses the ball in the midfield, which is not a great place to lose the ball in general, and then doesn't actually rush back to correct the change. Am I wrong? I'm pretty sure that's what led to the first goal.
He didn't lose the ball. The first goal, it was real. The beginning of it's fluky because it's an Atlanta corner, and where we're calling this from, this is what stinks about not being on site, is I couldn't see how things developed. It's something I always look for. It's something that I started always looking for when I coached. I've talked about it a lot just in terms of defense in general. I always want one extra person defending at all times. I always want numerical superiority. And it goes on set pieces too, even your own set pieces. So Miami, if they leave one up outside, not defending on the corner, I want two back. If they leave two up, which is what they did, I want three back.
Right.
They left two and Pizarro kind of floating underneath. Atlanta left three, so it was 3v3 to begin with, which is very risky. And Hyndman took a bad position. Now, it's a clearing header that ends up being a perfect pass. It's LGP stepping in front to head the ball clear. He's not able to direct it, but it falls into the path of Pizarro. But because Hyndman took up a bad position, he's dead. Like, he's dead on the play because Pizarro is able to get behind him. Then it's 3v2. I talked about it on the show this week. Like, my problem with it, I don't think Hyndman's catching him, first off. Like, I don't think he's catching him no matter what. But to give that appearance, and I knew it when I saw it, that was going to become a big talking point because it looked bad.
It looked very bad.
It did. There's just no way around it.
Any recap of that shot of the goal, you just see Hyndman jogging. I don't want to say gingerly, but you see him jogging basically in the background behind Pizarro, just watching the play happen, watching that stacking matchup between the defense. So it's unfortunate for him as a player. But again, it's honestly on both goals. There seemed to be a lack of urgency on making sure that we're covered defensively. For instance, on the second goal, Morgan is left wide open,
Yep.
completely wide open. And there's nobody there to, well, Gallagher actually walks up to the 18-yard box.
Which it shouldn't have been his guy at all.
Well, it shouldn't be, but then who is then not defending in the proper position?
It's a weird one because it's another somewhat fluky one. Brooks Lennon makes a big defensive mistake in the 1v1 with Ben Sweat. He goes to ground, doesn't win the tackle, doesn't really do anything. He slides by. So Sweat pulls it back. Lennon's eliminated. He comes inside the 18, and Robinson stands him up. Miles defends well, wins the ball. It kind of pinballs back to Sweat, and that's where everybody hesitated. That's played to the top of the 18. I don't know where Anton Walks was at that point, but you had the forward somewhere lurking, so I would assume that Walks was dealing with that. The question for me is that holding midfield. Where's Eric Remedi? Because that would be him. If you're playing any kind of a man-to-man, George Bello would be following in with Morgan coming in from the outside, or Hindman is coming inside. Like there's some disconnect there with the way it worked. Your holding midfield was not at the top of the 18. Walks was probably occupied. Bello didn't follow. Gallagher sees it and tries to rescue it, but he's the left winger. I mean, he's coming back to try to make a play at the top of the 18. That's not his guy. Everybody hesitated when the ball pinballed from Robinson, and we've seen it happen this season. We've seen it happen multiple times. This has been a pretty good defense. When you look at the numbers, it's a pretty good defense. Mm-hmm. But these moments where you have either set-piece issues, because it's not even just set-piece defending at this point, set-piece issues with that first one that you give up, and then this, where it's a moment of indecision. And you can go back to the Cincinnati goal in the MLS's back tournament, where Frankie Amaya gets into a pocket between the lines, kind of like where Morgan was, right, and everybody's looking at it, and nobody steps to it. So it's frustrating because this defense is better than that. Even with the changes of personnel, even with the injuries they've had to deal with, they're better than that. The goals they're giving up are bad goals to give up for a good defense.
I would agree with you. Now let's move on to the hot button topic.
Which one?
Let's go with the primary one, which is the officiating.
Okay.
Obviously, earlier in this match, God love him, but definitely should have acquired a yellow card in the first half of the match. Good old LGP.
Mm-hmm.
First tackle. He doesn't actually acquire that until the second half.
First tackle should have been a yellow. Second grab that was breaking up play should have easily been a yellow. He got it on the third foul.
Correct, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
But let's talk about this blatant elbow to the face, which I'm sure we'll see a pro VAR match recap, and to where the VAR is, obviously stating again that the referee on the field got it wrong, because it's blatant. He looks back. He swings an elbow. Whether he connects the elbow or not apparently matters now. And apparently in the way it's done matters now, because what should be a red card on all fronts is now just it's a yellow. I mean, we get the penalty, which fine, but still, any swing like that where you're looking at the player and then swinging an elbow towards someone's face should be a red card. It's blatant and it's intentional, whether you actually hit the person or not. Like you said, you were on 92.9 The Game in the post-match recap, and you said, doesn't matter whether or not I swing a fist at you. Even if I don't connect, I'm swinging a fist. So it is what it is. Obviously, we're probably going to have I feel like we're getting this so much this year. I'm sorry, Atlanta United. We failed again. The referees on the field are just choosing not to listen to VAR, even though it's there for a reason.
I'd love to know the story behind this one as to how it went down. What did VAR say? How did this happen? Because I'm just going to read the laws of the game, and you tell me if I'm crazy. Violent conduct which is a send-off. Violent conduct is when a player uses or attempts to use excessive force or brutality against an opponent when not challenging for the ball, or blah, 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 blah. In addition, a player who, when not challenging for the ball, deliberately strikes an opponent or any other person on the head or face with the hand or arm is guilty of violent conduct unless the force used was negligible. It was obviously not negligible. He struck him in the face. He struck him with his arm. I think he got the forearm. It was deliberate. I mean, it's textbook. This is a video that referee trainers should use to describe what violent conduct is. It's that textbook. And it's 7:13 p.m. on Friday. I remember Monday at 7, after a Saturday game, the disciplinary committee moved pretty quick on suspending Franco Escobar for something that was nowhere near as egregious as this. I keep hitting refresh. I'm not seeing anything. It's a joke. It was a joke. It wasn't a red card. Stephen Glass was right. It's a red card in any league in any part of the world. I've been on disciplinary committees for youth and adult and for national amateur leagues. And if I saw this video, or if I had a description of it, if it was a youth game, I didn't have the video, and I had a description from the referee that described what we saw, it's a multiple game suspension. No question. It's minimum 2 games. No question. No question at all. And we've got nothing. And no, it didn't cost Atlanta United the game. We don't know what the effect would have been. That's why you don't have these kinds of calls if you're a referee. You don't want these calls where you affect the way a game plays out, because we'll never find out. They can come back and say, yep, we got it wrong. He's suspended for the next game. Well, they play tomorrow, so they might want to get on that quickly. They can say, oh, sorry, my bad, and you can add that to the list of my bads, which would now make 4 in the last 12 months, which is...
List of my bads.
It's ridiculous. You've got the 2 penalties they should have given Pitti last year in a week's time. You've got the kick to the head of Brooks Lennon that they said what they got incorrect. And now this one, if they say they got it incorrect. And as Stephen Glass said after the match, he doesn't even think that Sabiga thinks he made a mistake, which I would tend to agree with what he said to Glass, saying, well, he didn't hit him with the elbow, it wasn't aggressive or whatever. It's ridiculous. It's an embarrassment. It's a threat to player safety. It should not be condoned by MLS. The fact that the disciplinary committee and Pro has had nothing to say about it since Wednesday night is a huge embarrassment. And it's just getting old. It's getting old, because this is different than persistent infringement, which we can have judgment decisions about. This is, like I said, it's pretty basic. It's pretty textbook. And if you can't get this one right, I don't know what you can do. I really don't know if you can call games anymore if you're Robert Sabiga. If you can't handle this situation with a VAR to help you, I don't know what you're doing. I really have no clue, because he was right there. It was obvious watching the video. And I also agree with what Glass said. Diego Alonso knew that he got away with one. He knew that he got lucky with Nicolas Figal not being sent off. He pulled him at halftime, because he expected that in the second half, after the referees had a chance to discuss it and look at it, that maybe Sabiga would have had second thoughts and would have been looking for a second yellow really quick to send him off. No, he pulled him, which was smart by Diego Alonso, but it also adds into the fact that everybody except Robert Sabiga knew that this should have been a red card. And it would have changed the game. There's just no way around it. It would have changed the game.
It definitely would have. Now, part of my ignorance in this, but am I still incorrect in understanding that if the referees blatantly get something wrong like this, that they are still not fined, or there's still no disciplinary action towards a referee that would make them want to inherently get better about making calls?
It's not direct. Like, they're not fined, which I'm okay with. There's not a direct causation here that you can follow easily, because what generally happens is, what always happens, every game's assessed. You have people assessing the referees' performances. And if they do something wrong, whether it's, just like fundamentally with paperwork or procedure or stuff like that, they'll get criticized for it. They'll get a report about it. If they mess up calls like this, they'll get reports about it, things like that. So what it will do is it'll affect future bookings. And you have to try to follow it as best you can if you want to see what happens. The biggest problem, honestly, is there's not this huge core of referees waiting in the wings. So if you drop Sabiga, if you say, well, we're not going to book you this week because of this, who's going to step up? It's probably going to be somebody who has very little experience from USL Championship. And that's the bigger picture, is you need the referee development. You need to continue to broaden the pool, so it's a lot easier to say, hey, this isn't the first time. Every ref's going to make a mistake. Every referee is going to misjudge something. Every referee is going to wish they had something back. It's a very hard job. But now that you have video assistant referees in red card situations, in these kinds of situations, you've got help. And when you're still getting it wrong, and you start to do it consistently, yeah, you need to work lesser games, which pay less. So in a way, I guess it's kind of like a fine. But if you're working USL, you're getting paid less. That's just how it works. So it's they're not going to announce anything, which I get, because then it can go further. It can be a problem if you start to see like, oh, well, he got fined. Oh, and then coaches react to it, players react to it. So you're trying to eliminate that, but you've got to book the best referees on the best games. I think that's what it comes down to. So if he's not one of the best, and this should be a huge dock against him, then he can't be doing these games. Okay.
Well, it still stands to see whether or not that Pro comes out with any sort of disciplinary action against Figal. We would hope they would. What would this mean outside of just it being a complete disgrace against Pro for not actually fining Figal or having the sort of disciplinary action against him?
He should be suspended, no question, because the way it will go, and I want to draw the flow chart here a little bit. You didn't have anything happen in the game, so all that happened was Figal got a yellow. The way we saw it with Franco Escobar is the flow chart that has to happen here. So Pro has to admit that their referee got it wrong, and the VAR, because he's on the crew, that ultimately Sabiga got it wrong, but the whole crew got this wrong. The disciplinary committee has to vote unanimously that it should have been a red card and should be at least a one-game suspension. They changed that. It used to be the disciplinary committee only got involved if it was a 2-game or more suspension. It was missed. They did that before when VAR came in, which made no sense. The VAR should be that first check. It should be very high bar for the disciplinary committee to get involved, but that's the rule and that's what it is. So the disciplinary committee should look at this and say, yes, everybody here, all 5 of you, 3 former players, 1 former coach, 1 former referee, they all agree, yes, that was missed. That should be a red card. He gets a suspension. Now, the only thing that can draw it out a little bit longer is it can be appealed. I believe these can be appealed as well. Suspensions handed down by the league can be appealed. This would be a separate case because there was no red cards. There's no suspension to hand down. It has to come from the disciplinary committee. I believe those can be appealed as well. They don't announce anything until the appeal process is done. We are dealing on a short timeline here, but they play tomorrow. So if he's going to be suspended for that, and you can't mess this up to the point that he gets suspended for the next game, because he has to be suspended for the next game. I mean, you got to do this the right way. Right. That would actually be against Atlanta, which would be kind of funny.
Yeah, it would.
The problem that you're going to have because of the way this was handled is Atlanta players have to keep their head in that next game when they play this guy, because they will, unless he gets suspended for multiple games, which nothing's even come out about him being suspended once. That's going to be something that carries over. It's just, if Pro already messed up, the disciplinary committee has to fix it now. And if they don't fix it, then, I mean, I don't want to see any more players get suspended, because if they blew this one, they can't get anything else right.
Right.
I think they already overreached on the Franco Escobar one. So if you don't get this basic one that's right in front of you that's easy, with 3 players on that committee, they better be lobbying for player safety. They have to be, because it is a shot to the face. If he caught him with the elbow, he missed with the elbow. I think he got him with the forearm. Either way,
right.
If he catches him around the eye instead of at the jaw, break eye socket. You know, I mean, you can end a career that way. You hit him right above the nose, you can knock him out. You know, you can give him a concussion. All kinds of different things can come into play. If you just allow this to go, it's going to get ugly, and it can't be condoned. It just can't be condoned.
Absolutely agree with you. Now, this foul obviously led to the 2 PK hit. Obviously, Barco and Kubo stepped up, had a little bit of a brief chit-chat discussion argument about who was going to take this PK. We'll get back into that because I know that's a question that I want to discuss with you.
Yeah, I want to get into that too. I think it's getting overblown a little bit, but let's get into the penalties themselves first.
And then obviously, so Barco's shot hit it low to the left, which is a common trait of Barco's PKs. I actually called it before he hit it, so I kind of knew he was going in that direction. So tends to be a favored spot with Barco when it comes to PKs. Obviously, blocked. It was a wonderful block. And then we come back to the encroachment of both a Miami player and an Atlanta United player. And then Robles again makes that incredulous second block. Great block by Robles. You can't discredit him at all for that. It was hit very well by Barco. But I do think it's really important before we start getting into this discussion of the argument over the spot, that Pizarro did what he needed to do. And I feel like he did get in the head of Barco, and that essentially is what caused these mishits for him.
I don't know if you say mishit, honestly. I think we have a tendency as commentators on games, if a penalty is not made, it's a miss. And Mike and I talked about this a little bit on the call. I will fly the flag for hashtag GK Union here. It's a save. It's like if somebody has a shot from 12 yards in the run of play and it's saved. We don't say they missed. It's a save. Most penalties are made about, I don't know what the percentage is now actually in the worldwide game. It used to be when I was a kid, I was always told like 90% of penalties are made. I think it's less than that now. I think, goalkeepers are getting better and better at reading it. You're studying, just like, you knew which way Barca was going to go. I'm sure Luis Robles had done his homework and had an idea where he was going. To the point that on the second one, he was actually told to go the same way because that's where Barco always goes with it. Barco went the other way, and Robles waited him out to see where he was going to go and made an even better save on the second one, in my opinion.
Right, it was a wonderful save.
I got to give the goalkeeper credit. You want to make those. Obviously, if Barco had missed the goal entirely, we're having a different conversation. He put them both on goal. XG, according to Byrne, is 0.85, so you could say 85% of penalties are made. They're good saves. I mean, it's good saves. So you want to make them, but it's not like he hit it straight down the middle or he put it into the stands. Let's go to the thing at the beginning because a lot of people got worked up about this with Kubo and Barco. Teams have kind of a hierarchy, and every team does it differently. Think back to the Tata Martino days with Atlanta United. It was kind of who was feeling it at the time. And Miguel took penalties. Joseph started taking penalties. Those were the primary two. And when Barco arrived, he was coming from a team where he took penalties at Independiente. And if you remember, I think in 2018, there was a situation where Barco wanted to take a penalty, and it's like, no, you're the third guy here. No, you're not taking it. Right. And Pitti wanted to take a penalty last year, and Joseph was like, no, I'm the guy. I take penalties. I don't know if Frank changed that idea of, like, we'll see who's feeling it. These are our main guys to, Joseph, you're taking penalties. But Joseph has taken them consistently since late in 2018. He's not there. Pitti's gone. The next guy's Barco. And it's Barco to take him. And it's not a knock on Kubo Torres. It's just he's the new guy. And it's Barco's job to take that penalty. Now, I do think where people maybe were trying to make this as, this is an issue, we got to worry about it, they're going to fight. Kubo took a free kick. early in the second half that was in range, and he put it on goal. So I think that was kind of the, okay, I had a couple penalties. I didn't score. You have it.
Right.
So I think everything's good, but that is the hierarchy. It's Barco's penalty. He should have taken those.
Yeah, and that's immediately what I thought when they were coming up to the spot. I actually was quite confused as to why Kubo was trying to take the PK, but just because as a hierarchy order, Barco's been there longer. But again, I think you're absolutely right. I think people are probably playing a little bit out of proportion on that, wanting to make something out of it that wasn't there. And I do think that we definitely saw that sort of give and take, obviously, in the second half, like you said, with that free kick from Kubo. I believe it was low and to the right.
Yep.
It's a well hit free kick. But let's talk in the overall sense of this team. Obviously, again, we fall to I don't want to say a lesser team, because Miami has been gelling quite recently. They have good players. They've got wonderful striking talent, obviously, with Sweat coming up on the wings, and then Morgan, as we've talked with Jarrett, who loves Morgan, and then Pizarro, who is just incredibly gifted.
Yeah.
There's something we didn't talk about, which I think it's important to talk about in this match. It was their second string striker that they actually had play instead of Carranza.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull his name up right now, and I'm not getting there. It's
Robbie Robinson, the rookie out of Clemson.
Yeah. Yes, rookie out of Clemson. I thought that he had a great match. And as somebody who wouldn't have been normally in the starting 11, obviously because they want to rotate and give guys minutes off the pitch, I thought he did a fantastic job in putting the pressure on the back line, obviously sort of making our defenders guess on which direction they needed to go. And I think as far as a game plan is considered, I think Miami came in with a better game plan. They pressured on the ball. They let us have possession, but when they had the possession, they used it. And I think that was really important as far as an overall game plan. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, that's what suits them. They're not a team that's going to dominate possession, and against Atlanta, they don't want to get into that battle. They're going to sit at midfield and start to press there. It's almost, if you want to go basketball terminology on it, you're almost setting a trap. Right. And if you go back and you watch some moments in this, Miami is waiting for Atlanta to get into that zone right around midfield, and they want to push the ball out wide. They want to push, in this case, Lennon and Bello up against the sideline, up against the touchline, to where you use that as an extra defender and you make life difficult. And then if Atlanta goes backwards at that point, then you start to step up higher. Miami's built to do that. That's something that Diego Alonso's worked on probably from day one. They realized pretty quick that a high-pressing team in Miami with that kind of humidity in the summer is probably not a good idea. So pick your spots and measure your energy a little bit better. They do it really well. They're not a team that tries to build up a lot of play. They try to transition quickly. They really, from the run of play, weren't all that dangerous in this game. Again, both their goals, the second one was from the run of play, had a little bit of an element of weirdness to it. The first one's on an Atlanta corner. I mean, that's just a fluky situation all the way around that was made worse by poor organization by Atlanta. Outside of that, I mean, Miami just kept making it difficult for Atlanta to get to the middle third or get to the final third. And they broke up the play when they needed to. 21 fouls, which you would expect from Miami. It's the way that Diego Alonso teams are going to play. Atlanta has to find in those moments, and I know you're trying to build something. I totally understand the way Atlanta's playing right now in terms of building for the future. They're trying to build a team that can play through pressure. And you want to do that because it gives you a better platform to win games from against anybody. But late in the game, where you don't have the legs to build anything up and you haven't had success against it, you have to just start knocking it long and looking for the second ball. And I think they were reluctant to do that at the very end. That would be my only real criticism was, you get down to the last 5-10 minutes, you do have to go kind of old school and just bomb it forward with Adam John up there and try to knock it down and let somebody run onto it, draw another foul, because you couldn't get anything going.
Right.
The biggest thing is what, I just keep coming back to 8 first-half goals conceded this year. Out of 11 goals conceded in total, 8 of them in the first half. And when you're constantly playing from behind, you're going to gas yourself out. You're going to run out of energy.
Yeah.
You just can't put yourself in that spot. You have to start better in games.
100%. I completely agree with you. It's been a trait of this season. I have the utmost confidence that these guys can come back from being down, but it just, with a condensed schedule like this, with guys who need rest, you're not having your starting 11 every game. It's hard. It's going to be hard. And again, we can get into it in a second because I do want to get into some other things really quickly. But Lennon is a beast. I don't know what he runs on.
I think he might get a rest tomorrow. I think with Escobar having that night off due to yellow card suspension, I think Lennon might get a rest tomorrow. If Dom's all right to start again, at least Lennon doesn't have to play close to 90. At least he can come in the second half.
All right, so let's go really quickly into news. On the Atlanta front, as we said in the kickoff of this, they dropped a 3-match schedule on me that I had no idea about. Miami, obviously, is our next game, so we get to see the good old pink and black again soon on September 19th. We have FC Dallas on September 23rd, and then we play Chicago on the 27th. That's pretty exciting for me, in my opinion, that we're actually going to start getting outside of the Southeast bracket, start playing against some other teams other than Nashville, Orlando, or Miami.
Miami.
But apparently, MLS and the TV channels, as it were, want to see us go against Miami, and
travel to.
Yeah. Miami just signed a striker, like a DP striker.
They did. Have they announced? Oh, wait a minute. Now, let's make sure we have our terminology correct. They have not announced that they have signed him yet. Their owner has taken a picture with his arm around him as he arrived. He is in South Florida. We have not had an announcement from Inter Miami yet, but I would assume that is a mere formality at this point. Gonzalo Higuain will be joining Miami. Won't be there on the 19th unless this whole idea of a quarantine period is a joke, which, punching people in the face around this league's a joke, so maybe it is. Who knows? Maybe you want to get him in for that match. I don't know anymore. He'll make them better. He'll make them different, though. And that's the thing, is you mentioned Robbie Robinson and how good he was. I thought where he was good was his pressure. He made it difficult for Atlanta. They had to work harder to build up play. Julian Carranza, very good at that, and both of them will throw their body around and take some shots at people. Gonzalo Higuain's not running around chasing defenders in possession. It ain't happening. He doesn't have that kind of energy left in his older legs, so you're going to lose that element. And I think what it does is it really pushes them back, and I don't think it's an accident that Diego Alonso has been working on more of a middle block, more of a deeper block, over these last few weeks, because they've been talking about Higuain for a little while. So you're not going to high press with Higuain. You can't. You're not going to ask him to do a lot of pressing, period. So you've got to account for that. Does that mean Pizarro has to step up a little bit higher and press? Okay. If he does, he's got to do it. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit easier to play through those middle channels. And while Higuain is more dangerous for you in the final third, other teams might be able to play against you a little bit more easily. That's the part I'll be waiting to see how he looks in the moments off the ball for Miami.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how that team dynamic changes with as some people call him, the Hamburglar, coming on and playing on the pitch. All right, so let's go to a little bit of Nashville news. Yonder Cadiz from SL Benfica obviously played on loan for Liga with Dion. 25-year-old Venezuelan striker obviously won't be playing against us tomorrow. Has to go through this thing called quarantine. And then it will be interesting to see how he's introduced and slotted into the team. But this is something that Nashville has sorely needed, this sort of up top striker with speed and something that can carry their team as far as going forward, because they seem to be a back-sitting team, a low-sitting team, almost a parking of the bus, as it were. This is sort of big for them. I know this is somebody that they've been looking at for a while, and they said when they had the ability to get him, they got him.
Yeah, it's funny. Like these two teams, Nashville and Miami, have almost went in reverse with these kinds of signings and their evolution over the season. Miami started to drop deeper, and Nashville started to step up a little bit higher. And with Cadiz, you're going to be able to step up higher because he's going to give you that athleticism up top that I think has kept Dominique Badji in the lineup, but he's going to give you a much stronger technical platform to play, and he's a better goal scorer. He's got to deliver. He's a guy who's been, one of these players that it happens a lot with young players who go over to Europe and sign with a club like a Benfica, with a Sporting Lisbon, with a Porto, and they don't fit in immediately, so they start getting loaned out, and then getting loaned out again, and then getting loaned out again, and they just start bouncing around. Freddie Adu went through this when he went to Benfica. So I think the idea here is for Nashville to keep him on a permanent. It's a loan with an option to buy. I think they're going to do that. He's the kind of player that Gary Smith values. I saw Gary Smith here in Atlanta with the Silverbacks look for these kinds of players. Actually had a chance to talk to him at different points after the Silverbacks folded, and he was doing some scouting for the very beginning part of Atlanta United's academy. And he likes the big athletic forwards who can press, but also have the technique to play in tight spaces. And Cadiz is a player who can give you that. He's 6'3". He's got pace. He's a big guy, but he can play. The question is just going to be, he scored 2 goals and had 2 assists at Dijon, who's not a great club in France. What can he do here with guys like Hani Mukhtar, guys like Randall Leao, and a guy like Dax McCarty, who I think gets lost in the shuffle at times. Dax creates a lot of opportunities from a deep position. He's going to have opportunities. He's going to have balls fed to him in a variety of ways. Can he find the back of the net? If he can, he's going to have a home in Nashville for a while.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It'll be really interesting to see how that all changes. Obviously, like you said, with guys like Mukhtar, Leao, Muyol on providing those assists towards him, I think he can really start to benefit from this team, especially when he knows he's got that back line of Zimmerman, Romney, McCarty, and Godoy, as you said, sort of backing him up, letting him have that free range to go and change the game. So it'll be really interesting to see, like you said, Nashville that's going to start pushing forward a little bit more than we have seen them. Again, and as Miami drop a little bit deeper than we have seen them as well. But as we additionally mentioned, he's not going to be available for the game tomorrow. So let's go ahead and start talking then about the recap that we saw briefly with Nashville and Orlando. Again, Nashville sitting a little bit on their back heel, but pressing forward a little bit more. We saw Badji putting a little bit of effort in up front, obviously combining with Mukhtar. And then Leao comes in with one hell of a strike. Let me go back here. It was off of Randall Leao. Yeah, Randall Leao. Benji Michel had a rocket in that game as well. Mm-hmm. So it's to be said that Nashville does have the ability to give players space where they shouldn't. They have a hard time stepping to the ball. We saw that obviously when we played against them with Pitti. He was able to gain in that space and make something of it. We see that with Benji Michel as well. And then, they have that ability to hold back, and then when they do counter and come in, Leao's able to get that ball as a through. It was really great combination play as Leao sort of created that opportunity for himself.
Good from long range. Randall Leao, you've got to close him down, and it's something we've seen Atlanta have some issues with at times. He will shoot from distance, and he's a guy who can threaten from distance, and it's a good counterpoint to a guy like Mukhtar who likes to dribble you, take you, and get into the 18, deliver a short pass. Mukhtar is kind of a true playmaker. I like him. I think he's still getting comfortable in this league. It's a little bit different style of play than he's played in, coming from the Danish Superliga, but I think he's got the ability. I think it was a really good signing. Leal's dangerous. You've got that good base behind them with McCarty and Godoy, really good holding midfield pair. You've got a good center back pair in Walker Zimmerman and Dave Romney. This has been a very good defensive team this season. Joe Willis has 4 clean sheets. Nashville will be a good team. Honestly, I think they'll be a good team. I think they're a better team than Miami, to be perfectly honest. We'll see about Miami once they get Higuain, if that changes it. But Nashville, I think, is a more complete team, and it's going to be difficult. But Atlanta matches up better with Nashville. That's the weird thing about it is I think the matchups for Atlanta are better here because one thing that Nashville can struggle with defensively is players on the dribble. Atlanta is one of the best teams in the league on the dribble. Ezequiel Barco is just a free kick machine, earning dangerous free kicks in the final third on the dribble because teams just can't deal with him. He can get Godoy and Dax McCarty in trouble with that. Atlanta's going to have to find ways to exploit, at times, a lack of pace with Nashville. And I know a lot of people say Atlanta's not a very fast team. I tend to disagree. I think Jurgen Damm can give you that. We haven't really seen him turn on the jets just yet. I think Barco on the ball is very fast. In a foot race, in a sprint, maybe not so much. On the ball, he's very fast.
I don't know about that. I've seen him drop back to defend, and he's
got some wheels.
He's fast. He's very fast.
He's got wheels. He's not Miguel Almiron. He's not Tito Villalba, but he's got wheels. He's fine with your pace. Brooks Lennon's got pace. George Bellows got pace. You've got to find those pockets to exploit it. I've already fired it off in the Twitch pitch. You guys who are listening on the app, just audio. If you have questions, now is the time. We got about 15 minutes. So if you have Nashville, Atlanta questions, go ahead and send them in so we can get to them. One more thing that I wanted to add on this one. When you look at Nashville and something Atlanta can do to disrupt them, they typically play through Godoy. Anibal Godoy is the one they try to build up through. They don't really build up their attacks through the center backs. They don't build up on the back line. They try to find Godoy first and then play. If Atlanta and if Barco's in that spot as the number 10 like he was against Miami, if he's playing there, he has to stay switched on, and when Atlanta loses possession, take Godoy out of the play. Get in between the passing lanes. I think something Atlanta hasn't done enough of, and we saw it at times in Miami, and I honestly think they got tired, is when you lose possession, you have to immediately defend, and you have to defend up high. And it's not always just defend by jumping to the man closest to you and playing man-to-man. It's getting in the passing lanes. It's getting in between the ball and the person that they want to play to, cutting that off so you can almost defend the ball and a person that you're not necessarily close to by taking that pass away. If you can break up Nashville finding Godoy in the initial phase when they recover possession, they're going to have some problems figuring out what to do, and they're going to give the ball back to you. So it's a very simple thing that you can start to include more and more if you're Stephen Glass is, okay, now we know the shape we're playing in. Now we kind of know some of the possession build-up channels and patterns and what we're doing here. Now we have to add this element. And I know it's the hardest element right now to add because the team's tired. There's just no way around it. They're tired. But you have to commit to staying locked in when you lose possession, immediately turn into a defender. If they do that, they'll start to create some ugly goals at times from it. And that'll take some of the pressure off that they're all feeling right now about creating goals from the run of play. Use a counter press to do it at times. You just got to be smart about it.
And that's a point that you make that I think is very crucial because as we saw, an ugly goal itself with Eric Rometty, it was not pretty, but it was made on that sort of counter pressing, and he stuck with it and he dug deep and got that goal. And I think that's a testament again to we don't always have to be pretty. As long as the goals are in the back of the net, the goals are in the back of the net. Now that actually also leads me into a question that the Alabaster 65 had. Off tomorrow, Rometty or Lennon, or both?
I think both. The more that I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of leaning to Bello continuing to play. I think he's gotten better and better every time out. If he's ready to go and he's got young legs, keep playing him.
Right.
Center back, it's going to be two of Walks, Robinson, and Meza, who is now available again. He was in the 18 or in the 20 on Wednesday. He's listed with no questionable on the team sheet here. So Robinson, I do worry about a little bit. If Meza needs to play for him, that might just be what you have to do. Escobar's fresh, play him at right back. Jeff Larinowitz came on as a sub late. If he can start as he did in Orlando, I think it helps a lot. Gives you stability. Play him. Hosetu came on as a sub. Start him. You can start Larinowitz and Hosetu as your two holding midfielders. You want Barco to play if he's good to go. I think he's motivated to play. Play him. Jurgen Damm, it's just if he's good to go or not. If he is, play him. The left side, it could be Gallagher, which I'd be absolutely fine with. It could be Mulroney, just a different kind of personality. And I think Kubo Torres needs to play if he's healthy and ready to go. You know, Kubo and Damm, it's almost like you got to play through the rust right now and just knock that rust off by playing. So if they're fit, they play. Remedi and Lennon feel like, too, that you've got cover for them here in Larinowitz and in Escobar. And that's the way I would go if you can make it work with everything else.
No, that's a really interesting point because that goes back into sort of this discussion that we had at the beginning of the season, especially with Jurgen Damm and Mulroney, is that's incredible. If we see the two of them on the wings just even for 65, 70 minutes, that's incredible speed. That's something that you hardly see out of most teams. So I feel like something like that on a team like Nashville, we could draw them out and then beat them obviously out on the wings or out wide. I think that's a really good play. I'd love to, again, we haven't been able to really see it this season, but I would love to see what two sort of road runners on the wings would look like against teams that like to sit back and block. All right, let's answer some more questions. Okay, Alex, I'm not answering that. I'm glad Mays is back. I actually did not know that he was available for pulling. I know that he was in the 18 last match, but I'm glad that we can possibly see him back on. I think he adds a lot of obviously veteranness on the back line as well as just a calmness on the ball and that sort of captain quality that feels to be lacking a bit in defense.
Yeah, there's been questions about his pace, and this would be a game that Dominique Badji could give you some problems, but Nashville's also not going to have a lot of the ball, so I think you can handle that. I mean, we see teams that are possession dominant, like Atlanta wants to be, play guys who are going to be, dominant on the ball, and you can sacrifice a little bit of defending there at times. You can sacrifice a little bit of defending in the holding midfield at times if you're going to be on the ball a lot. There's still minimums you got to hit. I absolutely believe Meza can do that. But if you have a lot of the ball, he's a great player to have. I think he's the best of your center backs on the ball right now. Miles is getting better and better and better, but Meza is just calm. And at times you just need that calmness.
Meza also has ability, as we saw, I did see Miles try to do in this past game against Miami, which is do those long balls. Meza's got a wonderful vision as far as the long balls go. So that does cut lines instead of having to pass it to Remedi to then do a long ball. Yep. To just sort of and take that up in itself. So it'd be really interesting to be able to, again, cut those lines. If Nashville, we draw them out and then can drop it in behind.
Miles has added some of that, but Meza is definitely more comfortable on that long ball. I agree. Shiva on the Twitch pitch says, why are we not pressing like we did when we lose possession? It's something that I think they kind of got away from last year. And if you want to look at something, and Frank de Boer never really talked about it. I don't think he was ever asked, so it didn't come up, and it's not something he's just going to share with people freely. We know that Frank focused on defensive organization. So if I'm connecting the dots here, I could see a scenario where he doesn't want them to press up high because he wants them to drop and get organized. It's a tougher balance for me because I think one of the reasons why if you're going to be a possession-dominant team and get numbers forward, you almost have to press when you lose possession because you have numbers around the ball. If you're going to drop at that point, that's where disorganization can happen. And we saw it at times last year, especially early where I think the team was kind of stuck in between. Now, there's differences here, and it's kind of hard to break it down without showing you video, without doing all this. A pressing team like the Red Bulls is different than what I'm talking about here because they don't want the ball. The New York Red Bulls don't want possession. Atlanta wants possession. Atlanta wants to dictate the way the game is played by having the ball. The Red Bulls want to dictate the way the game is played by pressing you. Those are two very different things. But possession teams have to be able to press. And as we've seen with the Red Bulls, and something they've tried to figure out, and they haven't yet, pressing teams have to figure out what to do when they're given the ball. Right. Because that's what teams will do to them. If they see, like, they can't do anything with the ball, we're just going to give possession away. Atlanta has to figure out what to do when they lose the ball. And you can find a balance, especially now where fatigue and fitness is an issue. You can find a balance with defending up high without running yourself into the ground. And that's what they need to get to. And a lot of it is structure. A lot of it is organization. A lot of it is things you'd work on the training pitch. You don't get a whole lot of time to do that right now. Hopefully that's something that Stephen Glass gets more of an opportunity to do. Because people have always asked, like, well, how did his teams with the twos play? And can we see anything from that? That was something that we saw more consistently with the twos, was a team that would put more pressure on up high. But it wasn't reckless. It wasn't disorganized. It wasn't kind of the old school Jurgen Klopp at Dortmund style where it's like you lose possession and everybody who is close go to the ball. So it's like a swarm. It's like bees. You don't want to do that. You're almost thinking more of the Barcelona Pep Guardiola style of you lose the ball, you want to try to win it back quickly, but you're doing it in a structured manner. And that's the way that Atlanta can be, and I think it would be the most effective addition. But it's something that takes time. It's not something that you can do overnight. You can talk about it in videos. You've got to work through it. And it's something that Pep has always talked about, how defense is a big part of what he does, and nobody really sees it because you're focused on the ball, you're focused on the attacking talent, but the defense is what gives you that ability. Think back to classic Barcelona days with Pep, how many goals they scored off of that kind of pressure and those kinds of turnovers up high. You need that too. You want to be a team that can play with the ball, but you need that ugly goal in you from time to time where you force a turnover. That's the part right now that Atlanta's lacking. And honestly, they've been lacking it for a while. It's just something they have to do. It's a structured thing, like Frank always talked about from a defensive standpoint. It's structured, but it's structured to defend higher up the field. You've got the players who can track back and defend from deep, like Miles Robinson, like George Bello with his pace, like Franco Escobar with his pace. You've got that, so you can take a few more chances up higher up the field.
Right. Now you just sort of kind of answered that tactical matchup question in 2 and 1. So I did want to pull up here with Alabaster 65 again saying, Nashville weather report for tomorrow is that kickoff is around 7:30-ish, but it's going to be around 80 degrees with a almost 50% chance of a thunderstorm, which is, again, that good old rain delay.
We can't have a rain delay. We can't have a rain delay because you might not get a whole radio broadcast, or Mike and I are going to have to get really creative because we're getting kicked out of the stadium at midnight tomorrow night. Like, kicked out because the NFL takes over.
That's right.
We're getting kicked out. So if the game gets delayed too far, I don't know what we're doing. The full-time report might be us on phones. It might be us sitting in a parking lot. We might have to have the game pulled up on a computer sitting in a parking lot somewhere. I have no idea how this is going to go. No thunderstorms. Don't even talk about it.
Let's get a few more questions in before we end. They're just talking about Eric Vermetti and
Alex Bassine is furious with you.
I look. Vermetti is one of my favorite players, but it was not a pretty goal. It wasn't a pretty goal. I mean, we can be honest. There's nothing about it.
It was a scrappy goal. How about that?
Scrappy. Excuse me. Let me not use the word not pretty. It was scrappy.
Yeah.
It was hard fought and equally won. But again, it was not something for the highlight reel.
No, not the normal highlight reel. That's for sure. It was. Look, I mean, it's great from him to have the awareness because The cross is just a little behind him. He tries to drag the leg back and kind of flick it on. It bounces around.
Goal in where it had not been blocked and it was a flick around the back of a player, then yes. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Then that would have definitely been on the highlight reel. This one will get on a highlight reel, but a different one.
Just not the one they're going to be selling to other teams or having their agent cut out.
No, this will be the one that you get for buying something else. It'll be like the DVD you get because you bought a T-shirt at the team store. It'll be one of those.
Exactly. All right. I'm not really seeing any more questions. So let's go ahead and just talk about predictions of the match.
Oh, I got some questions on the Twitch pitch. Okay. Joe says, what is our tactical counter to the current Nashville play style? So currently they're going to sit deeper. They're going to try to get out on the counter. You've got to defend up high like we talked about. They are stepping up higher to press, and when they do that, especially on the left side, because Daniel Lovitz turns into a left winger a lot of times, you need to take full advantage of that and attack down that side. And Jurgen Damm should be a player that you can do that through. If Nashville's putting pressure on you and Lovitz is high up the field, put it into that corner. Put it into that corner, open the game up, and let Dom get out on the run. Alistair Johnson on the right side is really aggressive. He's also a rookie. I think you can take advantage of that. You want to dribble him. You want to try to press him and put him under difficulty, under defensive pressure, where he's got to figure out how to play through it because he doesn't have a whole lot of experience. You got to avoid set pieces. You got to be organized on set pieces. All that's a must all the time. And I think the biggest one is preventing the ball from finding Godoy in the build-up. If you make them do something different, it's going to be a struggle for them. McCarty picks up the ball higher. Godoy is the one who picks it up deeper. If you cut him off, they're going to have to build up a different way, and they're probably going to get a little worried and just bomb it long and give you the ball back. So then you'll just get to recycle possession. But if you can take Godoy out of the action, you'll be in good shape. Let's see. Joe said, will the officiating be obviously in our favor based on the ridiculous amount of good karma we've stored over the past few matches? No, I don't believe the referees will ever be in our favor ever again because I keep refreshing and I don't see an announcement from the disciplinary committee about Nicholas Figal being suspended.
I think we should all just at them right now.
I don't think they don't. At MLS because they don't have an official disciplinary committee Twitter account. But if you want to at MLS and ask where Figal's suspension is, go ahead. Because at this point, I want to know.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna ask. We'll see if we can get enough retweets to make a difference.
Yeah, it is absurd.
Some kind of commentary on why nothing is going on. Okay, we got about 1 more minute left, so I do want to get into where can people watch, hear, possibly listen in a car.
We might be in a car next to y'all trying to do this thing if this thing gets delayed. The plan is for us to be on 92.9 The Game at 8 o'clock with the Five Stripes Countdown. Kickoff, it's a Fox Sports South game, so it's not going to be 8:50. It's going to be like 8:36, 8:37, somewhere in that ballpark. And we'll have the full-time report for an hour after the final whistle. And keep your fingers crossed for no weather delays.
Well, I'd also like to just, not have to stay up till midnight watching the match. But,
That too.
All right. Well, obviously you can find him at Longshoot on Twitter. He is incredibly knowledgeable, very funny, witty and charming, and knows more than most textbooks know about soccer. So if you need any questions or have any needs for any information, obviously follow him on all the social medias. You can find me at the Kelly Francis. I am none of the things that I told you about Jason. I'm just here to help facilitate. Obviously, kickoff is tomorrow on Fox Sports South, and it'll be a good game. What's your predicted score, by the way? We didn't get to that.
1-1. What about you?
I actually have it being a scoreless draw.
Okay. I hope we're both wrong. I hope it's a lot of goals and more of them for the Atlanta side.
We talked about this after, so we said our predictions on air, and then I said, you know what, that was my prediction, but I really want. I technically said 2-1, Atlanta, and it came out 2-1 Miami. But I did say that I really hope it's just a goal scoring match, which it could have ended up being.
Yeah, it was a fun first half. I mean, it was a good match. Like, it was a fun match from, I think, a neutral perspective. There was action. There were things happening. There was some drama. There was some controversy. I mean, if you're a neutral fan, it's got everything you want. If you're an Atlanta fan, you're not happy about it. If you're a Miami fan, you probably love it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. I hope we have a lot to talk about tomorrow night, but maybe more favorable things to talk about.
Yes. Hopefully more favorable, but we'll see. Anyway, that will be it for us. Obviously, you can find us the night before every Atlanta United home match. So our next one will be September 18th at 7 p.m. Here to bring you all the information about us going against Miami again. And then hopefully by that time we'll know that Figal has been suspended for at least 2 matches. So
let me hit refresh one more time before we go. Come on, MLS disciplinary committee. What are y'all doing? Come on. Nothing.
It would have been too sweet for too timely for that to happen.
I need a morning announcement, you guys.
Yeah.
Badly.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us. We will see you on the 18th.
Adios.